Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor, and I just made a new friend. When I make a new friend, I feel like a little kid. I had somebody call me who is another one who is sick and suffering, and we got to talk. And I don't want to get to talk to people who are suffering. I don't like that I make new friends because they are at their wits' end and aren't sure how to live with and or live without alcohol. Usually when I make a new friend now, it's because their life is falling apart or they are have the potential of drinking themselves to death. It's sad and it's very moving for me. It wasn't until like the third year of sobriety that I got so far. I was able to extend myself outside of me in order to really care about another sick and suffering alcoholic. And today, like, I wish there was something I could do to just fix it, just say, this is what you have to do, and it will work, and you will stay sober. But it's different for everybody. So I can't do that. But what I can do is record a podcast every day because there is something that I say that has got to resonate. Something. And how many have I recorded? Like 465 of these or some. I have no idea how many there are, but it's over a year and it's almost every day. Something in there has got to resonate with some alcoholic. So I try to put the topics, the titles for the episodes to be so that it'll resonate, so you could kind of see what it's going to be about. But there's only so much I can put in a title. So I have a description that talks about what it is that is in the script for each day. So I gave my new friend, hi new friend, if you're here with us. I don't say people's names here, so hi new friend. And I'm trying to give a little bit of an explanation of what I do here. I just talk about my experience, strength, and hope as a recovering alcoholic of about 8.5 years. I'm getting closer to 9, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. And as a stroke survivor, with a disability, like, I'm living a life that I had not planned. Um, all of it I didn't plan. And this this podcast helps me talk about how I'm doing it each and every day. So I get to talk about the stuff that I encounter on a daily basis. And a lot of times, especially for me, because I have this disability and I don't get to go out in the world and have my career and stuff, I don't have as much interaction with other people in person, that a lot of what's going on that I talk about is going on between my ears. And that's the stuff that's been going on since before I can remember it was going on. I've always had that voice that I talk about, that I've talked about recently, that voice inside my head that is not me, but it's a version of me that is trying to lie to me and tell me all the things that I should be doing, and I need to figure out how to not listen to it or tell it that it's wrong or convince it of the next right thing that I should do. So that's what I talk about a lot of times. And so this morning we read from a new book in my morning meeting, and it's about emotional sobriety. So Sobriety is not just about not drinking. If it was, I wouldn't be able to do it. If sobriety was just about not picking up a drink, I would have been picking it up all along. Um, the key to not picking up a drink is working on emotional sobriety. Emotional sobriety is the work that is left over when you put down the drink, when you stop picking it up, when you stop having that craving and finally being like, I can't take it anymore. And you make that decision to go to the store and pick up a drink. Um, Emotional sobriety is what keeps that craving at bay. And the way that I work on my emotional sobriety is through the steps of my sobriety program. Um, what I learned today as we dove into this new book called Emotional Sobriety, sorry, I have a head pain, um, is that the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous experienced depression. And this book, Emotional Sobriety, talks about how he had these unrealistic dependencies on other people, dependencies on the circumstances have to be a certain way for me to be happy and not drink. And that is not how life works. Like, I have fear, I have selfishness, I have unrealistic expectations of everyone around me and myself. And as long as I continue to just let those be and not try to do something about them, I am not emotionally sober. Um, the reward for looking at my fears, looking at my self-centered behavior, and drinking was a self-centered behavior. I was drinking instead of being 100% present for my kids, being 100% present for my now husband, for my dog. I was thinking about my dog yesterday. I had a dog named Evie, and she was a coonhound. And I had to put her to sleep right after the beginning of COVID. I mean, it was like right at the beginning of COVID. It was like 2 weeks after COVID started. We had moved into this new house that I'm in right now. And she had a really scary episode that was going to lead to a very unpleasant life. So I had to put her to sleep. And I was thinking, I told my husband yesterday how I made amends to my dog, Evie. And I don't know if he knew that or not, but I said she really deserved it. So even my dog was getting the brunt of my disease, and I was able to make things right before she was gone. And that means a lot to me. I know that she couldn't understand what I was saying. I like to believe that these dogs know exactly what I'm saying. Um, but she felt it. She felt my sobriety. She felt the change in me. She felt that I was letting go of fear because I physically was trembling less. I had a constant tremor that we thought was familial tremor syndrome, like my dad and my brother, but it turns out that if it was that, it has subsided because I'm no longer drinking. So I think it was partially just withdraw, just plain old withdrawal. And I think it was instigating, whatever the word is, getting that familial tremor syndrome to like come to the surface. So, the reward for all of this is that feeling of serenity. And I remember reading one of the promises that says, "You will know serenity." And I was like, whatever, that's a crock. And until I was out running one day and I was like stopped in my tracks. I was like, this is it. No, I was walking. I was like, wait a minute, this is it. This is serenity. And what it felt like was for the first time in my life, there was nothing wrong. There was absolutely nothing wrong. I didn't have any resentments. I didn't have any fear. I didn't have any sadness. I mean, that was the big one. I didn't feel depressed. Um, that is emotional sobriety for me. Um, so it takes a lot of work. And um, I've talked about this before. There's this unstable phase of sobriety and for me. And that was when I put down the drink, so I was physically sober and went through the time it takes for your head to clear, the fog to lift. Um, because I believe when I stopped drinking, I still wasn't present. I was so just flustered that I was physically sober, but I just was still very upset and very much not present. Because I then had to actually look at my fears and my selfish behavior and my expectations of other people and myself and any sort of like mental abuse I may have received in the past. Like I actually had to look at it. So there's this phase between being physically sober and being emotionally sober that it's very unstable. And I think that that is the place where a lot of people relapse, where you're putting down the drink, but you're like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I mean, I went through that. I went through a phase after my first detox that I was sober for about 2 months, I think. And I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I can't deal with life like this on this level, or I'm thinking of a plateau. Like I can't deal with life right here. I need to cover it with some alcohol. Then I can deal with it. I feel too much. It hurts too much. Um, I'm a wreck. Just a 100% wreck. I can't deal with life like this. I have to drink. And that's because I'm physically sober, but I'm not emotionally sober. I haven't actually dealt with anything yet. I haven't dealt with the stuff that I've wanted to numb and that I would say made me drink. Those things didn't make me drink. No people made me drink. I have the disease of alcoholism. That's why I drank. Um, but because I drank for so long, I didn't grow up. I didn't deal with anything. I didn't deal with my marriage being over and my divorce. I didn't deal with anything from growing up. I didn't deal with things that made me sad. I mean, I was always sad that my parents were divorced. Always sad. My parents have been divorced since I was 2. I was always sad about that growing up. But I didn't tell anyone. I didn't talk about it. That's just a simple um, thing that was stuck in my craw my whole life, and I didn't talk about it. But those tiny little things can become big weights on our shoulders, and then they can actually start to influence the way that we behave in our life. Um, I do believe that because I never dealt with that stuff, that it impacted the way that I behaved in my first marriage, for sure. Um, and there's just so much pain. Um, I remember when I went that period where I hadn't worked the steps and I knew what the steps were about. Like I knew that I was going to have to, um, quote unquote, confront these people and make amends with them. I knew that I had to do all that stuff. And I'm like, how is this going to fix me? I knew that I had to go to therapists. And I was like, I already know what's wrong with me. What is a therapist going to do? But I had to do it anyway. And I think, again, that's where a lot of people are making the excuses before they actually start gaining the benefits of emotional sobriety. Um, so I had to get to this point where I was like, I just have to do it anyway. If I don't, I'm going to die. Period. That was it. It was either you're going to die or you do this program that you don't know why it works, but people seem to think it works. I didn't even believe that these people weren't drinking. They were too happy, and I didn't want to be one of those cheesy happy people either. But I was willing to do whatever it took to stay sober. I've mentioned a lot of times there was a lady in my sobriety network early on, and she used to say, if somebody told me I had to roll a penny down the street with my nose, I would have done it because I was willing to do whatever it took to get sober. I didn't ask why, I just did it. And that's where I got to the point where I was like, I'm not going to ask why, I just have to do it. Whatever they say, go get an addiction counselor, go to IOP, go to meetings, get a sponsor, call my sponsor, all of that stuff. Like I had to do it or I was going to die. I could see it already. I could see that I was dying. Um, but I was dying for a long time and I let it go too long. I let it go to the point where even the doctors weren't quite sure if my liver was gonna um, rebuild itself. So when I was drinking, I was demanding things from other people. I didn't realize I was doing that, but I was demanding the impossible. I wanted to be able to have my cake and eat it too. Um, I wanted to resolve this inner battle within me and make everybody else's, like I was a fixer, make everybody's lives happy, um, fix my inner battle. I never deserved to be as happy as other people, but I can get to this plane. That's the word I was thinking of, not plateau. I can get to this plane where everything will just function and work like a well-oiled machine, but I don't have to stop drinking. Um, but what actually happened was I was just having that inner battle. There was no win. There was no plane to be reached. I just kept fighting something that wasn't ever going to let off. And that was my disease. It was not just a craving, but it was a mental block. It was um, I mentally was not able to think reasonably. I thought I was thinking reasonably. I thought I had everything figured out. But it wasn't until I worked the steps for over a year that I really was like, I'm seeing more clearly what is actually happening. Um, there were relationships that I talked about it yesterday that I was just taking, and I wasn't giving anything to it at all. I've mentioned in the past, I don't know why my husband, boyfriend at the time, stayed with me. But that's love because I was just taking, and I wasn't giving. I didn't have anything to give. There was nothing overflowing within me. It was all just, I was depleted. I was so freaking depleted. And yet I had this dependence on those people that I was taking from. I was, and that's where the demanding the impossible. I was wanting something from those people that they couldn't give to me. I made unrealistic expectations so that I would end up in disappointment, and then that would feed my depression, and I would be back to the races again. Um, I was always setting myself up for failure. I was depending on those circumstances to be a certain way for happiness, and they were just never going to be that way. It was impossible for them to be that way because I wasn't willing to give anything. I was only willing to drink and observe, and have life be the way that I needed it to be. I needed to give love. I needed to understand than to be understood. That's the stuff that I never knew the St. Francis prayer before I got sober. To me, it's the 11th step prayer. But that thing just hit home for me when I got to hear it for the first time. That when I heard to understand than to be understood, I think that is the one part of that prayer that has stood out to me stronger than anything else because so often I can see myself like at work and with my husband. I could feel myself like crawling inside myself and being like, they don't understand me. And I would start getting depressed. Um, I was, I want it, my depression fed on itself. It was a sick relationship with disappointment and depression. It was like I didn't want to feel that way, but feeling that way was comfortable for me because I had felt that way for so long. Um, so any chance I could get to be disappointed with somebody, and saying they don't understand me, I'm going to feel sorry for myself, I'm going to isolate. That was what was comfortable for me. So when I heard the St. Francis prayer and it's like you need to understand rather than be understood, I was like, wait, what? Like, it's going to help me and my relationships to actually put myself aside and understand where he might be coming from. I do that now. There very, very rarely am I upset with with my husband. I don't usually talk about this. Very rarely. I mean, once a year. And I can't even tell you what it is, but it's something that is not worth being upset about. And but I have come upstairs. It's probably more than once a year. I mean, I am human, but I have thought. I think of like my old behaviors come up, and I'm like, yeah, I can't believe that. I'm thinking I can't believe that. And then I think, wait, to understand than to be understood. I'm like, what might be going through his head? Oh, he just worked for 18 hours and didn't sleep last night. Done. Done. It fixed my problem. So understanding that to be understood what went a long way for me, but there's so much more. I want to be the light in the darkness, love rather than be loved. All of that stuff was really helpful for me. But it took me doing the steps first. The steps helped me to recognize my role as a human being among human beings. And it started by just looking inside of me and seeing how I was dealing with my life. So the steps actually quite literally start from this inner circle, which is me, and it starts working outward. And I start working with my sponsor. Well, first I start working with my concept of my higher power. Then I start working with my sponsor. Then I start sharing in meetings and I start listening and building a network. And then it affects like my friends and family. And then it works out to the next outer circle, which is like my co-workers. And then it goes to strangers. And then by the end of the 12 steps, I am willing to reach out to another suffering alcoholic and give what was so freely given to me. Because today I have some left over. Today I have serenity that is left over. I have um, I have a quiet place within me that I get to retreat to where there is just serenity and joy and happiness. I mean, I'm not bullshitting you. I really have that. I really have peace. And I don't think about alcohol. Um, there are times that I think about alcohol as a thing, but I don't think about alcohol as an option, you know? The stability of my emotional sobriety came from looking inward, working within my program, and starting to extend it outward, and then giving, surrendering to all the stuff that I was trying to make happen, to the control that I never had, but I was trying, that was that inner battle. I was constantly trying to control things that I couldn't control. Um, and it's so bizarre to me how just that liquid that we put in our bodies makes that kind of a difference on us. But it's something that I couldn't see until I put it down. I mean, that liquid is is intentionally altering my mind and my view on the world, my view on myself. That's what it's for. That's why people love it, because it changes my perception of the world. And what I can see now that I couldn't see before is that perception that although it chemically felt good to have that in my body, the perception that it was creating in my mind was immensely negative. Um, I did not have hope. I did not want to live, nor did I want to die. Um, it's fascinating. It really is. Putting it down and stopping altering my perception of the world around me and my perception of that voice that talks to me inside of my head um, gave me the opportunity to notice by stopping drinking that liquid that altered my perception of everything, stopping that gave me the opportunity to notice things that I was literally blind to. And I say literally. We have a joke in my house about when people say literally, but it's actually not literally at all. They're using the word wrong. But literally, I did not see the things happening in the world around me. I couldn't see it. I couldn't get past the vision of what was going on in my head. I couldn't see past my perspective, my perception, to see that cute groundhog on the side of the road just perked up, like watching the cars go by. I used to see the little groundhog on the side of the road and I'm like, he's gonna be dead. I mean, that's terrible. Um, I early in sobriety, when I stopped drinking, I started seeing the beauty of the world for what it is. And I took off those glasses that drink was blinding me with. So anyway, that's what I got. Wow, I got a little passionate there. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.